Hello and welcome to this Foster Care Institute online training webinar. Resident Rights of Children and Youth in Foster Care. I am your host, Dr. John DeGarmo, founder and director of the Foster Care Institute. I am an author of several best-selling foster care books, an international speaker and trainer, and my wife and I have been foster parents to over 60 plus children who have come to our home and been a part of our family. Our goal during this Foster Care Institute training webinar is to increase your awareness of the rights that children and youth in foster care have. If you have not watched the webinar on the rights and responsibilities for foster parents, then I encourage you to do so after you watch this one, as they are a good combination, if you will, or a good pair, if you will, as we examine both the rights of children and the rights of foster parents. Again, for this webinar, we will be examining the rights that children and youth have while in foster care. I believe it's important for us to recognize, first of all, that the rights of children were first recognized after the First World War. And this was done so with the adoption of the Declaration of Geneva in the year 1924. So again, children's rights were first recognized shortly after the First World War in Geneva, after Geneva adopted a declaration, again in the year 1924. Now, let's look at what the definition of rights might be. According to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, they define rights as the following. Quote, rights are legal, social, or ethical principles of freedom or entitlement. That is, rights are the fundamental normative rules about what is allowed of people or owed to people according to some legal system, social convention, or ethical theory. End quote. Again, thanks to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy for this definition of rights. The United Nations has a different definition of rights. And their definition is as follows. Quote, human rights are rights inherent to all human beings, regardless of race, sex, nationality, ethnicity, language, religion, or any other status. Human rights include the right to life and liberty, freedom from slavery and torture, freedom of opinion and expression, the right to work and education, and many more. Everyone is entitled to these rights without discrimination. End quote. And again, thanks to the United Nations for this definition of rights. Finally, we have a definition of rights by the Equity and Human Rights Commission. And they defined rights as follows. Quote, human rights are the basic rights and freedoms that belong to every person in the world, from birth until death. They apply regardless of where you are from, what you believe, or how you choose to live your life. They can never be taken away, although they can sometimes be restricted. For example, if a person breaks a law or in the interests of national security, these basic rights are based on shared values like dignity, fairness, equality, respect, and independence. End quote. Once again, thanks to the Equity and Human Rights Commission for their definition of rights. Now let's look further into children's rights. In 1959, the United Nations General Assembly adopted what is known as the Declaration of the Rights of the Child. Now, this declaration defines children's rights to the following: to protection, to education, to health care, to shelter, and finally, to good nutrition. Now, in the year 1989, the CRC, or the Convention on the Rights of the Child, they defined a child as any human being below the age of 18. And they define this with the exception unless the law applicable to the child the majority is attained earlier. The United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, otherwise known as the UNCRC, has 4 classifications when it comes to the rights of children and youth. And these 4 classifications are as follows. First, there are civil rights. Secondly, political rights. Third, social rights. And lastly, economic and cultural rights. And again, these come to us from the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. Going further with the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, again the UNCRC, they say this: the right to survival. Quote, a child's right to survival begins before a child is born. Let me read that again. A child's right to survival begins before a child is born. According to the government of India, a child life begins after 20 weeks of conception. Hence, the right to survival is inclusive of the child's right to be born, the right to minimum standards of food, shelter, clothing, and the right to live with dignity. The UNCRC also talks about the right to protection. According to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, a child has the right to be protected from neglect, has the protection to be protected from exploitation, and finally has the right to be protected from abuse at home and abuse elsewhere. The UNCRC also talks about the right to participation. With the right to participation, a child has the right to participate in any decision making that involves him or her, either directly or decision making that might involve him or her indirectly. Now, there are varying degrees of participation, according to the UNCRC, per the age and the maturity of the child. Now, finally, looking at the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, they have the right to development. The right to development states that children have the right to all forms of development. These include emotional development, mental development, and physical development. Emotional development, according to the UNCRC, is fulfilled by proper care and love of a support system. The UNCRC defines mental development through education and learning. And finally, physical development, according to the UNCRC, is through recreation, through play, and through nutrition. Now, all this information can be found at the Center for Child Protection.org. Now, let's talk about the rights for children and youth in foster care. Do children and youth in foster care have rights? Does a child in the foster care system have rights? Well, let's examine that, shall we? Indeed, there are several states in the United States that have a foster child bill of rights. Now, with these states that have this foster child bill of rights, there are many, many similarities. Yet at the same time, there are also some differences. So again, many states across the United States of America do indeed have established a foster child bill of rights, and every state has their own. Some have differences and some have similarities. The definition of a foster child, according to dictionary.com, is as follows: a child raised by someone who is not their biological or adoptive parent. A needy child, such as one living in an impoverished country, supported or aided by contribution to a specific charity. We thank the dictionary.com for their definition of what a foster child is. Let's examine the rights of children and youth in one state in particular, the state of Georgia. The Georgia Division of Family and Children Services, also known as DFACS, has this in their Child Welfare Policy Manual from 2015. Each youth in foster care who has attained the age of 14 years of age shall have the following rights. To ensure that the foster child is treated with nutrients and respect, is cherished by a family of his or her own, heard and involved in decisions, involved with his or her birth family, if appropriate, friends, teachers, and relatives, is allowed access to his or her caseworker and an attorney ad litem, in receipt of appropriate education, training, and preparation for citizenship, in receipt of quality child welfare services, individualized care, and notification of changes, and provided with a plan for the future. This comes to us from the National Council of State Legislators Safeguard for Children Foster Care Act. In Georgia's DFACS, child has the right to fair and equitable treatment by the Division of Family and Children Services, the fair and equitable treatment by foster parents, and the right to fair and equitable treatment by other partners in the care of children in foster care. Children and youth in foster care also have the right to information when it comes in regards to their heritage and to their cultural background. Let's look further into what the state of Georgia has when it comes to the rights of children and youth in foster care. According to this state, Georgia, children and youth in foster care have the right to be safe from abuse, neglect, and exploitation. Children and youth in foster care have the right to know why they are in the child welfare system or why they might be placed in the child welfare system. Children and youth in foster care have the right to have their educational needs met. Children and youth in foster care have the right to have their health needs met. In addition, children and youth in foster care have the right to family and community connections, including visitation, telephone calls, etc. Children and youth in foster care have the right to have regular, ongoing opportunities to engage in age or developmentally appropriate activities. In addition to that, children and youth in foster care have the right to intensive, ongoing efforts made to reunify them, the child, with their birth family, i.e., their parents or relatives, or to secure a safe, permanent home. Children and youth in foster care have the right to participate in the development of the case plan and to review, sign, and receive a copy of the case plan. One member of the case planning team may be designated to be the youth's advisor or advocate with respect to the application of the reasonable and prudent parent standard to the youth. Along with this, youth in foster care have the right to choose up to 2 members of the case planning team who are neither their foster parent nor caseworker. Children and youth in foster care have the right to participate in juvenile court proceedings regarding their family. Children and youth in foster care have the right to receive the services needed to help them transition to adulthood. Youth in foster care have the right to receive a free copy of their consumer credit report. Youth in foster care have the right to receive an official or certified United States birth certificate, Social Security card, driver's license or identification card, health insurance information, and medical records upon exiting foster care at age 18 or above. Youth in foster care have the right to receive an age-appropriate description of their rights and a personal copy. And finally, youth in foster care have the right to have a personal advocate to support them through the grievance process. Again, this comes to us from the state of Georgia and the Department of Children and Family Services, otherwise known as DFACS. And as indicated earlier, there are many states that do have a Bill of Rights for youth in foster care and children in foster care. This is just an example of one such state, the state of Georgia. And as indicated earlier, each state with their Bill of Rights may have some similarities to this one and differences as well. Now, let's go further and look at the rights of children in foster care from the National Foster Parent Association, otherwise known as the NFPA. If you are not familiar with the National Foster Parent Association, I encourage you to do a search online and go to the nfpa.org for much more information. Again, the National Foster Parent Association. And according to the National Foster Parent Association, they created a Foster Child Bill of Rights in 1973. And it states the following, quote, "Every child in foster care is endowed with the rights inherently belonging to all children. In addition, because of the temporary or permanent separation from and loss of parents and other family members, the child requires special safeguards, resources, and care." The National Foster Parent Association states this: "Every child in foster care has the inherent right to the following." And let's examine these on the following slides. Again, the NFPA states every child in foster care has the inherent right to be cherished by a family of his own, either his family, helped by readily available services and supports to resume his care, or an adoptive family, or by plan, a continuing foster family. Children in foster care have the rights, according to the National Foster Parent Association, to receive continuing loving care and respect as a unique human being, a child growing in trust in himself and others. The National Foster Parent Association goes on to say that children in foster care have the right to be nurtured by foster parents who have been selected to meet his individual needs and who are provided services and supports, including specialized education, so that they can grow in their ability to enable the child to reach his potentiality. The National Foster Parent Association goes on to say that children in foster care have the right to receive sensitive, continuing help in understanding and accepting the reasons for his own family's inability to take care of him, and in developing confidence in his own self worth. To continue, the National Foster Parent Association's Foster Child Bill of Rights states that children and youth in foster care have the right to grow up in freedom and dignity in a neighborhood of people who accept him with understanding, respect, and friendship. Children and youth in foster care have the right to receive, in overcoming deprivation or whatever distortion in his emotional, physical, intellectual, social, and spiritual growth, which may have resulted from his early experiences. Children and youth in foster care have the right, according to the National Foster Parent Association, to receive education, training, and career guidance to prepare for a useful and satisfying life. Children and youth in foster care have the right to receive preparation for citizenship and parenthood through interaction with foster parents and other adults who are consistent role models. The National Foster Parent Association's Foster Child Bill of Rights also states that children and youth in foster care have the right to be represented by an attorney at law in administrative or judicial proceedings with access to fair hearings and court review of decisions so that his best interests are safeguarded. Finally, the National Foster Parent Association's Foster Child Bill of Rights states that children in foster care have the right to receive a high quality of child welfare services, including involvement of the natural parents and his own involvement in major decisions that affect his life. We want to thank the National Foster Parent Association, the NFPA, for their definition and for their Bill of Rights for children and youth in foster care. Once more, many states do have a foster child Bill of Rights. If you're interested in learning more if your state has a foster child Bill of Rights, there's a number of ways you may proceed. You may do a search online for your state. Ask your child welfare agency or caseworker. Perhaps ask a CASA or guardian ad litem in your area. Ask a state legislator. Or quite simply, contact us here at the Foster Care Institute and we can help you with that search. Foster parenting can be difficult and can be stressful. To be sure, as foster parents and caregivers, we all need moments of inspiration. We all need moments of encouragement. I encourage you to check out the book, The Little Book of Foster Care Wisdom, 365 days of inspiration and encouragement for foster care families. This book and many other best-selling foster care books are available at the Foster Care Institute for you to purchase, and we'll send one to you immediately. I'm certain that there's a book available right now for you that fits your needs and addresses what you're going through currently. For much, much more, visit the Foster Care Institute or go to drjohndegarmofostercare.com. Follow me on Facebook at Dr. John DeGarmo Foster Care Institute and at Twitter at Dr. John DeGarmo. And if you have questions about this presentation or anything else that I can help you with, please email me at drjohndegarmo@gmail.com. I look forward to your emails. We want to thank the National Foster Parent Association and Georgia DFACS for their definitions and for their Bill of Rights. And most importantly, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for taking time to learn more about the rights of children and youth in foster care. I want to thank you for watching this webinar, and I want to thank you. Thank you for caring for children in crisis. To be sure, what you're doing is so very important. Please understand this. What you're doing is changing the world for children and youth in crisis. For the Foster Care Institute, I'm Dr. John DeGarmo. Thank you for watching.